our guest today is not really a guest. He's really a team member, but he's also doubling as a guest because he has, in his spare time, this activity called Basketball Society. He's been playing basketball since he's 3 years old. He played basketball in junior high school. He played AAU. He played high school ball. He played college basketball. He went to every significant basketball camp in America. Michael Jordan's camp, Coach Chaney's camp from Temple University, 5-star camp, Eastern Invitational camp. And today he is building a digital platform that also functions as a training resource for young people in all things basketball. He's just a basketball visionary entrepreneur, and I'm proud of him. He bears my name. His name is Martin Soaries, the founder and creator of Basketball Society. Martin, welcome to your show.
Yeah, this is an interesting dynamic, but it makes sense. So I'm looking forward to it. This is fun.
Martin, as we look at dfree and all things financial, I could help but notice that one of the first closures in light of the coronavirus pandemic, was the NCAA tournament and then the NBA itself. And in some ways, basketball, both collegiate and professional basketball, led the way in alerting our country to the threat of the virus and the impact of the virus. How did you feel when you saw that happening?
It's affected basketball the hardest of any sport. I've been telling people that over the last couple of weeks. It just feels like, for the simple fact that March Madness represents the basketball month in the year, arguably the biggest sporting event of the year, next to the Olympics and the Super Bowl. Like, March Madness is up there, and there's no March Madness right now. So
right.
You can imagine the basketball community is very much in shambles right now. There's no NBA basketball on. There's no college basketball on. Some high school teams and tournaments have had their seasons canceled. Some people didn't get a chance to play in their state championships. So you have kids, some of the kids that I coach, they're very much affected by what's going on. Gyms are closing. You can't work out. You have to find a way to stay in shape at home. They've canceled certain AAU circuits this summer. The Nike circuit is shut down, the Under Armour circuit. So that affects recruiting. So these kids are really being affected and thinking about their futures and how this is going to affect not just the next few months, but the next few years, just based on what's going to happen in the next few months. So basketball is really at you can't really ignore it. It's really crazy. Basketball is really at the center of this thing because of the time that it really started to escalate.
It was one of the funny things is that basketball and just watching the NBA was one of the comforting things as Corona first started. It started innovating kind of our news cycle, and that was one of the few moments of entertainment and a break that you would have from having to hear about it, and for them to be the first to kind of, players start announcing that they have, the virus, and you have, teams deciding to cancel games and then ultimately cancel the season. It's huge. It's huge. And I didn't honestly even think about the trickle-down effect from a college perspective, but people's futures are literally on the line with the seasons being shut down. I didn't even think about it from that perspective.
We are all excited because LeBron James has this major contract, $154 million to play basketball for 4 years. I played basketball for 4 years for free in the park. But I want you to know that LeBron James is smart enough to know that $154 million doesn't really equal $154 million. I want to break down with you what $154 million means so that you can understand what your paycheck really means. Yeah, it's life altering. I mean, there are scouts that normally would be making decisions about players, both from a collegiate and professional level, around this time of the year. There are families making decisions about what schools their children should choose. I'm interested, Martin, as you are well aware, of the economic impact. I know that there's social impact, there's family impact, there's psychological impact. We can't talk about all of the impacts, but because of my work in dfree and what Tamika does, what and it doesn't have to be in the order of priority, but what are the economic impacts for teams and players and vendors and fans? Just kind of talk from off the top about what happens to the money.
Yeah, well, that's why, the first NBA player to be tested positive publicly was Rudy Gobert, who plays for the Utah Jazz. And once they had one player test positive, that's when they they suspended the NBA for the season. They're trying to salvage it, but I'm sure soon they'll let people know. They're trying to keep people positive, but They're going to have to cancel the season. It's not something you can salvage unless some people are pushing for some new things to start the season where it ended off later in the year, and it's just going to be a mess. But the season is done. But to that point, the reason why, and some people thought that the NBA overreacted by suspending the season, from one person being tested positive. But the fact of the matter is, the NBA, just like March Madness, it's one of the biggest sporting events in the world. So you're talking about, and this ties into the economic impact, because physically, Rudy Gobert, who's one NBA player, has touched trainers, teammates, people they played against, his coaches. I mean, the reach of how many people you could have, affected with the virus, that it could spread so fast in a community like the NBA, where there's things happening every day. You're talking to people, you're dapping people up, you're working out. So that wasn't an overreaction. So economically, it's the same kind of effect, because you take away March Madness, that doesn't just impact the players and the teams and stuff. All those people who work at the arena, people who work for the team, people who do. There's a huge trickle down effect, and all the people that, and not to mention the city. Indianapolis was going to be the host for the Final Four this year, and that's a huge loss for them to not be able to host it. Maybe they'll give it back to them later down the line, but it's examples like that where it's affecting. It's going to have that trickle down effect, affecting people physically, financially, obviously, because, and same thing with the NBA. Think about all the people who work at these arenas across the country, all of these NBA arenas. There's no games, and they work there full time. So it's definitely a huge. Sports as a whole is affected, but again, I can't stress enough how much basketball. They're talking about Tom Brady going to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers right now, as if it's business as usual with football and the NFL, but basketball is really at the center of this right now.
Tamika, I don't think enough people understand the economics and the economic contributions made by sports, culture, and arts. When you add the three of those, they are tremendous economic engines that not only affect the people who work in those industries, but all of the ancillary industries, the hotel rooms, the restaurants, the Uber drivers, all of what revolves around sports and entertainment is now shut down. The TV broadcast, the radio announcers, it's unimaginable. And to your previous point, we don't know how many years it takes to recover from something like this, because we've never had anything like this before.
Right. It's the players, it's the people around it, it's the institutions. Think about from a marketing perspective. When you back it up, we don't necessarily like to talk about big corporate structure, but most corporations get a ton of their marketing value out of marketing during sporting events.
Right.
And so the logos on the floors, the billboards, all of that stuff, and what that does backing up to marketing budget. Because they spend a lot of money doing it. So the people that produce that content, the people that work in those companies, your marketing budget's not going to be what it was this year.
Exactly.
One, because of losses that we're already experiencing. So it's a huge trickle-down effect. And, unfortunately, I hate to say it this way, but the people at the bottom, the people that keep the doors open, like you said, Martin, are really probably feeling it the most deeply. The players, you have big salaries, you have endorsements and other things happening that will sustain you. But for Joe Schmo who takes tickets, or the person that works at the hot dog stand, or the person that is, out working in the parking lot, they've lost their money for the year.
A color, a number. I'm more than my credit score. But a low score means a closed door. Higher interest rates for cars and mortgages. But change is easier than we think. With Credit Builder Plus, a simple loan can build your credit. So we can all get to where we want to be. Green. Let's get to green together.
And often teams at the highest level, the teams have insurance, and I'm sure some of their insurance policies kick in to enable them to pay their players. But in a few instances, Martin, I've read about a few athletes, basketball players specifically, because baseball season hasn't kicked in yet and football season's over. But a few basketball players have actually donated money to cover the losses by some of the little people that work in the stadiums. Talk about that.
Yeah. Blake Griffin in Detroit, Kevin Love in Cleveland, a couple of more players have come out, and I know Mark Cuban, the owner of the Dallas Mavericks, he started looking into how he could help out his employees. So I think that's one of the things. Him. I do watch basketball. Zion, definitely. He just got back. Yeah. He just started playing.
Right.
And he donated part of his salary.
Right.
Yeah. So I think that's cool to see the community, the NBA community, just the strength of that and how the players are looking to support, because it's needed. I mean, they recognize it, because you can't ignore that huge impact that it's having.
Right. So, Martin, as we wrap up, thank you so much for this perspective. As we wrap up, you're building a digital platform that also has some components that do coaching and work out in the field. You do events. You've got, last time I checked, about 65,000 followers on Instagram. You've had 1 million views on a few videos. Where does a platform like Basketball Society go as this new normal surrounding sports, entertainment, and basketball emerges? I mean, what's the future of Basketball Society as an enterprise?
Yeah, I mean, fortunately for us, we're a digital platform, and I was just listening to the episode talking to Navarro Wright, and him talking about all the digital needs that a lot of people need to have in this time right now. So in a way, we're ahead of the curve in that sense. But I think right now, in light of what's happening, we're trying to offer content. First of all, obviously, we have a lot of content from this past season, which got cut short, that now we can kind of sit down and work on and reflect on some of the great moments of this past season and offer people that kind of content. We're also getting a lot of requests, and still just talking about media content-wise, we do video highlights for high school players and sometimes semi-pro and college players. So we're getting a lot of requests from parents for videos and anything that they can have, because going back to the whole recruiting thing, parents know that they need to have videos out there and have as much exposure of their kids as possible, especially now with the prospect of AAU being out of the picture over the next few months. You want to have as much content and film of your kid as possible. So we're getting a lot of requests like that. So that's kind of the media and kind of the business-wise, where things are kind of helping us just in terms of the state of things right now. And going forward, we look to provide content and resources that really offer not just entertainment, but a sense of positivity and encouragement and support. We have a subset of our brand called The Village, where we do our skills training and mentoring with some of the kids we work with. We have options. We're getting ready to roll out some more options where we can start to do some workouts, whether it's digitally or just outside, doing small groups outside where we can. And so that's kind of where we're headed, is just being a diverse and organic and resourceful outlet for things that we can, ways that we can serve society through basketball, to put it that way.
Yeah, that's great. It's a great concept. It's a great brand. You guys have a unique approach to not just the sport, but to the social and economic significance of the sport. I'm proud of you. And Tamika, I think we will down the road have some real potential for partnership in light of the economic impact of sports and the way dfree attempts to invade the culture through partnerships.
Absolutely. And Martin, I'm signing Aaron up as soon as he can walk. I just need to go ahead and get on the business.
Listen, we know he's going to have the height, so when I'm ready, once he's ready.
He's on his way.
The whole project.
Excellent. Well, you guys have been listening to In the Black with our team member, Martin Soaries, who is also the founder of Basketball Society, and Dr. Soaries' son. We've been really excited to have this conversation. And stay connected, stay tuned, and we look forward to our next episode of In the Black.
Great.
Thanks
Thank
for
you.
listening.
Thank you. Thanks, Martin.
Thank you.